All right, guys, welcome back to the Monica Brant Show. I'm your host, Monica Brant, joined with a co-host, a beautiful Wendy Fortino, IFBB superstar, and celebrity guest Chris Cook on, retired IFBB pro, military vet, and father of 4, creator of, Life Boost, as I say that correctly, and a husband, and all-around great guy. We've been talking to Chris about his background, how he grew up, also about bodybuilding and how he went from living in the McDonald's parking lot, his first arrival, to bodybuilding LA and Gold's Gym and all of that, into how he actually won his very first try at the USA's and became a professional IFBB pro and then retired. So kind of where we're at right now. Chris, what caused you to want to retire and move into a different area of the industry?
Yeah, it's kind of an accumulative thing, but so I won the USA in 2003, won the super heavyweight, did not win the overall. At the time, it was just the overall winner that turned pro.
Okay.
Right. So
back in the day.
Yeah.
Right.
Went a whole year, went back to the USA in 2004, won the super heavyweight again, and did not win the overall again.
That's
So
crazy.
so then I was like, all right, and it was, just justifiably, I just wasn't, I wasn't as conditioned as some of these lighter guys. I was very focused on being big.
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually moved from working with 𝗬𝗫cie, and I moved over to CZiDesign,
Okay.
and he tortured me until I was in shape, and I won finally the overall in the 2004 nationals.
Wow.
And I jumped right in. So that's in November. So the next round of pro shows that following May, I did the New York Pro, and I took 6th. And it was interesting because Jim Mannion and gosh, what was his name? From Jersey, was married to
oh God.
It's terrible. I'm skipping out his name.
I know who you're talking about.
He was married to a female professional bodybuilder.
Bev Francis?
Bev Francis, yes.
Yeah.
And so in any case, they had told me after that show, because I was really ticked off because top 5 was the Olympia qualifier, and I took 6th. And they literally came to me afterwards, and they're like, look, we're keeping you out of the Olympia on purpose because you need to, rest and focus on, getting your body to that premium level. So, then after that contest, usually I would take off, call it 6 to 8 weeks off of all supplements and let my body kind of clean out. And at the end of that cycle, that process, I went down to the cryobank to frankly store some sperm, because it's a little awkward, but I was like, okay, look, I'm going to have this long career. I want to have kids.
Yeah.
My wife and I. And so the best way to hedge against the potential physiological issues is to do that. And on the way home from the cryobank, the doctor calls up and he goes, hey, listen, you're not producing any sperm. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so I was just like, holy moly, man. Like, and it kind of really makes you, the whole world focuses in on this small thing. You're like, okay, I didn't get into this for that, and so.
And how old were you, Chris?
I would have been 29.
Wow.
No, 28.
Long.
28. Yeah.
That's
And
long.
so then I said, okay, I just started praying on it every day. And I continued on the same pathway. I started prepping for the next round. I did that next season. So I did the Ironman let's see, the Arnold, Toronto. I think I did 4 shows, and there was this culmination. I ended up leaving. 𝗬𝗬 changed. So from when AMI bought 𝗬𝗬,
Right.
everything began to change.
Right.
They stripped all the athletes. The majority of them did not get a new contract. I did get a new one, but it was like much smaller. It was only like 30,000 a year, and I was used to like 100 and something. And then, so I combined that with this other supplement company called 𝗬𝗂𝗁𝗲. If you guys remember these guys, they were kind of a shot in the arm.
I heard something about that.
And they promised me a massive salary and or compensation, and everything was going fine through prep of the next season. And then I literally remember they hadn't paid me for like 2 months, and on April 1st they called me and said, "Hey, we're not sending the check." And I'm like,
What?
yeah, it's April Fool's, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even realize it was April 1st. No, it's not a joke, man. So like,
You're like, ah!
yeah, like a combination of that happening combined with this, I feel like I've been having conversations with the Lord about where my priorities were in life. Mm-hmm. And I was driving to the gym one day, and I felt like God literally said, I was asking him, what am I going to do? And he's like, I've been trying to tell you, but you're trying to navigate around big issues. And so I said, okay, that's it. Just like that. I'm done. I called my wife. I said, hey, I'm retired right now. I'm done. And even she was like, yeah, okay, see you at the gym, And I'm like, no, it's done. I'm done right now. And I literally drove my car to Big John McCarthy's Ultimate Training Facility because I grew up wrestling my whole life, and I thought this MMA thing was really attractive. Mm-hmm. And I started training to fight that day.
Wow.
That's so crazy.
And then from a career perspective, because I'm not going to make any money doing MMA, that was my focus athletically. Because if I don't focus on something, I'm gonna go crazy. So from a career perspective, I shifted gears completely, and a good friend of mine at the time, still a good friend of mine, a guy named Scott Minard, who happened to be the chief investment officer at Guggenheim Partners. They were starting a fixed income asset management business, and we started throwing around ideas. And he said, "Hey, why don't you come in and work for me, raising capital for this business?" And I think Scott really at the time didn't have big aspirations for what I would do necessarily. He just said, I said to him, I said, "Look, I don't know anything about finance from an investment perspective." He said, "You don't need to know anything. I'm going to teach you everything you need to know, but you need to promise me you'll work as hard at this as you did in your bodybuilding career."
Wow.
And I said, "Done." And I just sunk my teeth into it, and I started going to school. And then I ended up being there for 11 years. And I of course made more money there than I ever would have in bodybuilding.
Wow.
It was a combination of timing, and being with the right company. And it was a fit for me, and we made it work. So,
wow, that's so cool. And here's the thing is, had you not done the bodybuilding piece, maybe that dedication wouldn't have
totally
been seen by your friend, right? Like he respected your work ethic because he saw you putting into the industry that you had chosen. And it's just cool how God, sometimes maybe that wasn't the right path that God had you, but when we turn things over to God, he can take our messes and create a message. And, and I just think that's so fabulous. Like you just think, well, if I had done bodybuilding and maybe that wouldn't have happened, and maybe God would have had you in another area. But I really feel like he can really utilize anything we do if we just turn it over and say, okay, I know I've been doing this on my own, and now you help me out, please. And he's always so willing to do that. What a wonderful story, to think here you were in the parking lot at McDonald's, and now you've got this career that you knew nothing about. Because as you were saying this finance, I'm like, wait, did I miss something about like education that, you had this business degree or something that you weren't utilizing, but no, you just said, I didn't really know about finance. So that's cool. He taught you and you were able to step into that all wholeheartedly.
Just so you know, we still haven't even gotten to unique. Like, that's what's crazy. We haven't even gotten to like the unique part of his life. Like, this is just like my favorite story. Seriously.
So let's dive into that, Chris. Let's talk about this company that you created and what it is, what the brand means, and how it got started.
So while I'm working at Guggenheim and I'm doing the MMA thing, interestingly, even as involved with supplementation and various things like that, I had never drank a Red Bull or a Monster or anything like that. And then the MMA thing, there was a Monster cooler at the gym, and I'd see it every day. And then so I tried one, and I've never been a coffee drinker, like a hot beverage consumer. So the idea of like a coffee type of platform, but through a cold beverage, made sense to me. And so at Guggenheim, I started there very early days. And so I actually opened up the office every day. So I was there around, 4:30 to 5 a.m. every day. And so I had them stock Monster in the cooler because that was my preferred beverage. And then, of course, everybody else in the office started drinking as well. And it was all great until one day in 2011, while I was actually, at the time I was working on the equity desk, I was doing, reconciliation and trade settlement.
I'm sorry. I'm just thinking you're saying all these big business words and finance words, and you were just a professional bodybuilder right before that.
Well, I jumped in. I mean, I was just doing a lot of reading and studying and getting myself tuned up as quickly as possible. I mean, I was behind the curve. I needed to get there. And he said, dedicate yourself like you did with bodybuilding. That was I worked 12-hour days at a minimum. And there was no limit. Whatever needed to be done, I was willing to do. And that's really what afforded me the opportunity to come, because it was so young. So,
I was thinking that where you were in the story, like I was like focusing so much because this is perfect B-roll for for like a marketing ad for Unique Life Boost. So like I'm on the edge of my seat because this might be used. So
yeah. Well, so here I am, early morning, drinking a Monster, just a normal day, not a big deal. So I while I'm there, my heart, I end up with an elevated heart rate. That's all I know. And I'm sitting at the desk and I'm doing my thing. And I'm just like, I'm looking, kind of feeling, I'm like, dude, like, man, I need to calm down. Like what is my issue? And then kind of forget about it for a minute. And then it just wouldn't go away.
How many had you been drinking a day? Just one a day?
No, probably, I mean, like through a whole day, I'd probably get to like 3 or 4, to be honest with you, but it's over
100 milligrams of caffeine.
No. So the Monster back then they're not like a Bang. They had less, a little bit less than that, but still, that's the interesting thing where I'm getting to the story. It's actually not the caffeine that kills you. It's the taurine. The taurine is the major one, but the combined with, niacin, 𝗬𝗎, those kinds of things that all have to do with vasodilation and increased heart rate. It's a very specific physiological.
And I want to mention something. I don't know if you've looked at this because we've talked about faith. Monster energy drink, if you pull it up and put demonic with it, there's so much about the demonic entities that have created it. There's even, they say, the symbol 666 on it and in the logo, and there's a lot of that. So, I don't think it's just about a physical. I think it's always about a spiritual thing too. So how interesting is that here you're drinking that, and that as a Christian, I mean, I didn't know that, and I don't drink Monster drinks anyways, but when I found out about that, every time I see it, I'm like, stay away from me. So
well,
you're trying to get your attention, right? He's like, you feel your heartbeat?
Yeah. Well, that's what the world is made of, right? We're and if you're a Christian, you're not of this world. And that's why it didn't mix. It doesn't work. And that can be actually a real point of frustration with regard to, what I would define as some of the lack of success that I've experienced in the beverage industry. But nonetheless, so I go down this road, I have this heart thing, and I literally leave work and I go to a little quick clinic I don't feel like I'm dying, right? I mean, at the time I'm doing MMA, I'm in great cardiovascular shape. So it's not like I'm like, oh my God, it's not like that. But it just won't calm down. There's no reason for me sitting here with 120 beats heart rate. It's just weird. Yeah. So I go to the clinic and they're like, okay, so what'd you eat today? Right. Or first is, do you do drugs? And I'm like, nope, I don't do drugs. Okay, well, what'd you eat today? Got up at 4:30 in the morning or 4 in the morning, had a protein shake, drove to work, cracked open a Monster. As soon as you drink Monster. Yep. You're having heart palpitations. Okay. So then they go through their process and do, their tests and all this stuff. And then they gave me something that actually calmed me way down, totally relaxed me.
Wow.
So, I get through that and then I'm like, all right, well, I can't drink Monster anymore. Right. And even if I drank a regular cup of coffee after that, I would find myself in a very jittery, where your hands are shaking and, or that internal feeling. If you've ever been hypoglycemic, you get that, right? So, in my mind, I'm just start thinking through this and I'm like, surely there's a better way, and I start looking into supplementation about how to stimulate my brain. Because really, if you think about the issues, when someone drinks a Monster or Red Bull, they're not trying to get physiologically energy. They don't want an elevated heart rate. They're trying to get themselves to be awake or alert. And it's a mental issue. It's a cognitive issue. So I started trying to search for ingredients that I would just take as a supplement. I wasn't thinking about necessarily creating the drink at this point. And I stumbled, one kind of thing leads you to another. And I ended up coming across this product called 𝗬𝗚cie mushroom. And if you read about 𝗬𝗚cie mushroom, it's got all kinds of benefits, medicinal health benefits, but one of the key components is its cognitive ability, and it's basically a nootropic, or what is now defined as nootropic. Back then,
they didn't have that word back then.
Yeah, one of the pioneers of nootropics, definitely.
Right.
So then I started experimenting with that 𝗬𝗚cie. I bought the 𝗬𝗚cie out of Whole Foods, and I gave it to other people to see if they had the same feeling that I did, which is like I had some previous experience with Adderall. Really weird story. Somebody gave me an Adderall because they told me how much it makes you alert. And I'm going to tell you something. I never realized I had ADHD until I took Adderall. I'm like, holy moly. I'm like 30 or 40% smarter on Adderall. No question.
Yeah.
Right. So it gave me a similar sense. I'm like, just heightened attention and ability to focus. I'm very much the type of person, when you're reading something, kind of your brain drifts and I have to refocus. So one thing leads to another, because a lot of people are having the same experience that I am. And I start thumbing around and researching the idea of creating a beverage with this ingredient. And then I get introduced to some folks, and that leads to a group that knows how to formulate. So I worked with them on a very specific formula, and that became the iterative process. It took me 2 years because you're trying a lot of things, you're backing things out, you're trying different levels of ingredients, even new ingredients, and then it finally starts to evolve. And then once it had gotten to that point, those who I had experimented with had such good reaction that I went ahead and had a very small batch, which was a few pallets of this stuff created, and we went on this, kind of roadshow, if you will, all just local, but setting up random tables on Venice Beach or other areas where you just had lots of people and say, hey, try this. What do you think? And then tell the story. And the reception was so good that I was like, I'm doing this, man. And so around in 2015 is when that happened. And then we launched in 2016. And at the time, I had a few $1 million in the bank. And, to be honest with you, I felt pretty damn rich. And I thought, man, I can do this. I'm gonna knock the socks off of Red Bull and Monster. And
I think it does, but just more people need to try it.
Well, and fast forward to 2019, every year we doubled in revenue. And 2019 was obviously the best year we'd ever had. We had a pipeline for 2020 that was very significant. I mean, we were well on our way.
Mm-hmm.
We were also right in the middle of doing a big capital raise. We were raising another $5 million. And the bottom dropped out when the pandemic hit, because 99% of the stores that carried my product were convenience stores. And if you remember, all convenience stores shut down for 3 months. And so my revenue went to zero, basically. And right in the middle of a capital raise, you know, it's a very capital intensive business. At a time when I needed capital and that revenue goes away, it just put the smack on us really hard. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So where are you from that point till now? Because we're now at the end of 2021.
Which is what I want to know.
Yeah. So we've been.
Do you care to share?
Okay. I mean, we had to change the model completely. Basically, going from very retail focused, you know, gas station, convenience stores, those kinds of things, to basically focusing online. And in the interim, looking to partner with some new folks and get fresh capital so that we can, you know, in a business like this, it's very promotional driven, right? You've got to pay to play. That's just the nature of the business. And, you know, I didn't realize how much capital it would take to drive this over that hump, if you will. Mm-hmm. And then you combine that with, you know, 100-year event with COVID-19.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at. So, you know, I'm actually working with a couple different folks. It looks like the business will likely be acquired, and keeping me on to work with them and then refocus with fresh capital and then, you know, take it finally to the level that it deserves, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. It sounds like God's got a new chapter, an area for you to walk down, and something else maybe that he's got for you in the midst of all of that.
Yeah. Well, you know, look, we're in the midst of doing all these little things. I've been investing in real estate actually for a long time. And so that was part of the catalyst of me moving to Texas.
What part of Texas?
I'm in Frisco, which is just north of Dallas.
Okay.
And so I started a real estate development company about a year ago. And so
far away from us now.
Yeah, I know. But we built 5 houses this year. We're starting an apartment building in another month, and then we're doing a 9-home development. So that we've already started that project. So it's like, you know, it's my side hustle, if you will, that is keeping the ship running until we figure out until we.
You've always got something going, man.
You got to. I mean, at the end of the day, you'll die on the vine otherwise. And, you know, but yeah, I've been very blessed with being able to make those transitions. And, you know, I think that's, again, you know, if you have $100 and you're like, okay, I got $100, right? How can I pay
$100 or a lotion job on your back?
That's right. How do I take this $100 and turn it into 200? And you just got to be willing to risk and you know, those bets every time are on me, and I'm willing to bet on myself. I know what I'm willing to do. You know, there's no end to what I'm you know, willing to do in order to be successful. I tell you something, at the end of the day, I can dig ditches like a son of a gun, man. I can shovel. I can shovel holes. So, well, but you know, with all truth and humility, you do what you got to do. It's at different times in your life, you know.
Well, you're still in amazing shape, so you know.
Thank you so much.
Where are you at with your training, and you know, what does that look like for you on a day-to-day basis? Because you still look like you're carrying a good size, and you know, you look like you're in the gym a lot. So what are you doing with that part of your athletics?
If there's one benefit to the pandemic, it allowed us to really get back to focusing on because you have so much more time. my change schedule was weird. So I do a CrossFit at 5 in the morning twice a week. And those are random days because it's with my neighbor that invites me begrudgingly. He invites me over to do these darn CrossFits and they just far out of me. So I do those twice a week. And then Monday through Friday, I do kind of the old school standard bodybuilding workouts, not nearly obviously with the amount of weight, but just to keep the volume going. And it feels good. You know, I just enjoy that process. And then in the evening, 3 days a week, I do jujitsu. So usually Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, but one of the combined 3 days to get in that, you know, that's just a love of mine and a passion. I just, when I made that transition out of bodybuilding, man, I found something that was just so enjoyable. So I still train, with that. Yeah.
Well, you're in amazing shape still. I can see your chest and your shoulders and your arms and everything. So I'm sure the rest of you are the same going down. So
Lori's like all this muscle.
Oh, that's
all this muscle.
It's all relative, right? I mean, it's like even you can be in pretty darn good shape at 45, but you know, when you look in the mirror, when you're passing by the mirror as you're getting in the shower, you're just like, man, you know.
Let's have that yellow and black stripe unitard and
just throw it on. It might be baggy.
Throw it on, you'll change your mind.
That's fun. There it is.
Awesome. So fun. All right. Well, this has been amazing. We are a little bit over our time already. And it seems like always so much great information. And I love getting to hear your story, Chris. And I know you're a dad of 4 girls. What are their ages?
Well, I've actually got 4 kids. So I said 4 girls because that included your wife. So I've got 3 daughters and 1 son. Yeah.
3 daughters.
Yeah. So my oldest is 13. Her name is Rocky. My son, who's 12, his name is Steele. My number 3 is named Bentley. Bentley Love is her name. And then Royal Amore is my baby, our baby. Yeah.
Wow. So, great names. Like so unique. I love it.
Oh, so unique.
Unique. Yeah.
That's Mama. She doesn't want to share names with anybody, you know.
Well, she won't. Except for we just named our cute little puppy Rocky. I'm sorry.
That's all right. It's a popular name these days.
So fun. Well, I don't know how you have time for all the business stuff and the family, but I know with God that God can arrange our time if we're willing to ask Him. He can help us arrange our time. So that's really, I guess, where it all falls down for you, right? It's just your relationship with the Lord and putting Him first, and then everything else filters out from there, right?
Amen. Absolutely. That's a daily challenge, but a daily focus. Absolutely.
I love that. Hi everyone, Monica here. Just wanted to thank you so much for watching the Monica Brant Show, and don't forget to subscribe, like, share these videos, and and that little bell notification. Don't forget to click that so you'll get more great content every time there's a show uploaded or a video or anything else. So you guys, thank you so much for your support, and as always, stay fit and love life.